All right. Mic check. I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron. Ceron, CWB Association Welding podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. My name is Max Ceron and I'm with you guys as always here to do another fantastic show. And today we have the fantastic duo of the Red Bench, who is Mackenzi and Jolene here. So welcome, Mackenzi and Jolene.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
So so it's always awesome to have two people on here because then like we can bounce the dialogue back and forth, and this should be really exciting for all the listeners. And I guess we should just start right off the top with maybe let's start with a little bit backstory of the company you guys are representing or the organization that you guys are representing before we get into who you guys are individually. So who would like to tell me what your guys's project is that you guys have started and what it's about?
Mac, you can go ahead. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So Jolene and I have co-founded the Red Bench. So what the Red Bench is, so it came from, so I was holding some women's welding sessions through the CCWJ at the University of Alberta that Jolene was a part of, and those ended because of COVID. And Jolene and I maintained our friendship, thank goodness. And we were talking one day, kind of the summer after that semester, and we said, why don't we take this idea of those women's welding sessions and just run with it? And that's where we came up with the idea for the Red Bench. And we had done some research. We had seen some similar programs that some other women have been doing, like Women Building Futures is one of them, Weld Like a Girl is one of them. And we said, that is awesome. Let's make our own version of this. And so what we've created is essentially an idea. We don't have a space yet, and we don't have really anything yet. Everything is still in its ideas infancy, but it's super exciting. We have lots of momentum going. But what the Red Bench is that it's going to be a workshop, physical workshop, an actual place that's welcome to women of all walks of life. And these are women that are in university. These are women that are in trades. These are women who just walk right off the street. These are moms. These are grandmas. These are any women who are interested in practicing skills in welding, learning skills in welding, bringing things in to work on, fix, and learn to work on. We are going to be starting mainly with welding projects, welding skills, and then hopefully expanding into other trades as time goes on. But it is a maker space and a practice space for women to access at as low of a fee and as affordable and accessible as possible, for these women to come and use tools, equipment, consumables, materials, and a space and access, peer mentoring and peer support, and access this space full of women who look like them and who are like them, where they feel comfortable to explore their skills, and do it at their own pace. And essentially this workshop is going to be following a membership model, so that these women can be protected under liability, under insurance, all of that fancy stuff. But we need this cost to remain as low as possible, because I know, Jolie knows, everyone knows that cost is a humongous restricting factor for anyone, not just women, for anyone to access tools, equipment, anything that they really want to do in the world. Everything is so expensive in the world these days. And so if we can just contribute to making one thing a little bit more accessible for the women that we really think need it, that's what the Red Bench is for.
Well, that's a very awesome, comprehensive layout. Thank you, Mackenzie. That was awesome. That was good. That's it. Like literally, like I had questions. It's like, okay, I don't even need to ask those questions now. Like that was super good.
Thank you. I think that Jolene and I have really had to practice our pitch. Yeah.
And you say that, and I think that's kind of one of the things that we try to do on this show is to get around the pitch. So now we got the pitch, we know what the Red Bench is. Now let's back up and like how did this happen? So let's start with you, Jolene.
Mhm.
Let's go back to number one. Where were you born? Like, where do you come from? And then walk us through kind of like your young life, and then how you ended up, through schooling, opportunities, maybe obstacles, and kind of getting into where you ended now.
Okay, so this might be a long story actually, but I will start from the very beginning, which is that I was born in Edmonton, Alberta. I come from a working class family. My dad was a automotive mechanic. My mom was a maker, and yeah, just very blue collar existence. Really, we went camping a lot as we were kids. We were always had everything that we needed, but nothing too fancy, and I went through grade school as everybody does. And when it came to graduating high school, I had lots of ambitions and lots of dreams. I'm a very ambitious person, and I love to learn new things. And so I was like, oh, I want to do this, and I want to go to university, and I want to, do all these different things. But um, there was never that, because of socioeconomic status of my family, like we didn't have the money to go to school basically. So I had a few scholarships that I used to kind of dabble in university and try a few things I was interested in, but I never really had mentors growing up. I never had models, and so I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I was just, went through my scholarship money, took a few courses here and there, and then that was it. And I was kicked out the other end. And uh, I was like, what am I gonna do now? So this is like really like long story short. Long story short, then I went to horticulture school. I worked as a horticulturalist for about 6 years. Then I decided I wanted to travel, so I did a few international trips, went to Latin America, and then I came back and I decided that I really liked Latin America, so I actually went there for a few years and kind of made my way around, and then I came back to Canada, and I decided that, maybe being a landscaper wasn't for me and I wanted to try something else. So then I moved to Europe and I spent some time in Europe, and ended up working as a JavaScript programmer for a number of years. And I did all these things like just really organically, like I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to go here, I want to go there, but I didn't have any post-secondary foundation, like academic background. And so when I was living in Germany, that's when I really thought, I've always wanted to go to school and I really want to do this and I'm going to make this happen now. And I had a friend who was an airplane engineer, and she was talking about engineering and how she wants to go into engineering. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Like, I want to go into engineering. That's what I want to do. Like, I want to build stuff. I want to have technical skills, and I want to like affect change at a high level. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna be an engineer. And then I got into materials engineering because I really interesting. Obviously, it's super interesting. And I actually didn't have any experience in welding. I didn't even know anything about welding at all. And um, I had to do. I was given the opportunity to do a research project, and they gave us a list of these research projects, and one of them was at the Canadian Centre of Welding and Joining, or the CCWJ, as Mackenzi was talking about. And I was like, okay, I could try that, give it a whirl. It was an impact testing, and that's where I met Mackenzi, where she had studied welding, and she introduced us to the torch, and they were cutting through metal, and they said, hey, do you want to try cutting through this? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll give it a whirl. I just remember cutting through this steel plate for the first time, and it was like, what? This is amazing. Like, you can do this? Like, how does this work? What else can you do with this? Like, you say you can build stuff with this? Like, just, like how amazing this is. And from that moment on, I just knew, like, I need to know how to do this. And the rest is history.
Well, and I got a couple questions from that. So
Sure.
first of all, where in South America were you? Because I'm from South America. So,
Oh, yeah, I was in Central America. I was in
oh, okay,
Mexico,
in Mexico.
Guatemala, Belize, and Cuba.
So my kids are half Mexican, but I'm from Chile. So
Oh, nice. Awesome. Nice.
yeah, and then secondly, as a materials engineer coming in and running a torch and having your mind blown, are you looking at that and being like, "That's actually not cutting, that's rapid oxidization. This is a chemical this is a chemical, reaction that's happening between oxygen and oxides and iron," and are you thinking about it like that, or are you just like, "Whoa, behold the power of steel." Like,
I'm like, whoa, behold the power of steel, because it's amazing. And then, well, what's so great about it is that you do it. You have this like functional side of it where you're actually building something and you're doing it. And because we have such in-depth coursework, we're in Alberta, welding and pipelines and everything is like so important to the economy, and that's what our studies are focused on. And so we get all the background information where you can go back and be like, actually, this is happening. Actually, the arc, from the welding torches being forced down through these like, different forces and the way that the current is moving, and it's really cool. It's awesome.
that's awesome, and then you met Mackenzie, right?
And then I
And
went back, yeah.
and then she brings like the practical experience, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what like makes us such a great team is because we bring completely different life experiences to the Red Badge, and we can each offer our own expertise and our own life experiences. So we just I don't know, I think we're doing really good. Like we go together. We're like two peas in a pod. I think that
Yes.
we're doing yeah, we're bringing it to the table together pretty hard, and
It's
we're
like
working
force of
really well.
nature type. Yes.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's the segue then to Mackenzie. So where does baby Mackenzie come from, and what's the background there, and how the heck did you get on the practical end of it? Where you're welding and you're figuring out that part of your journey. Walk us through it.
Yeah, so I'm an Alberta girl, like through and through, truly Albertan. I was born in Grand Prairie. My parents were actually living in Grand Cache at the time because my dad was a mining engineer, and so he was working up in the mines, all kind of northern Alberta. Right around that time, my mom was following him around wherever the mines were, and so come 1998, I was born in Grand Prairie, and from there we moved all around Alberta. I went to school to so many schools around Alberta. We were in Grand Prairie, we were in Grand Cache, we went back to Grand Prairie, we were in Lloydminster, we were in Saskatoon for a little bit, back in Lloydminster, and then eventually, kind of into grade school, we settled down in Calgary, and went to grade school in Calgary. I did high school in Calgary, and all through that time in school, I was always strong with my academics, kind of like as long as I applied myself, it was okay. And I had learned really early on that I really enjoyed the sciences. I really enjoyed like the physical sciences, and also really early on, I found that I loved working with my hands. My dad has driven motorcycles all his life, and so there's always motorcycles around needing to be fixed, needing to be modified, and needing to be updated, and also fixes around the house or whatever. My dad always took on the projects himself, and I'd be there, little Mackenzie, trying to help him the best I could with his little projects, and I loved that. And but I never really saw a path in terms of channeling my energy like really into that in high school, because I don't know, as a woman, as a young woman, and as someone who was enjoying their academics, I was seeing more of like a very much so university path, something like that. But then once I got to grade 12, I was really, really struggling with my mental health. I was struggling with my well-being. I was struggling with understanding like what was here for me. I managed to graduate on time, which was like a miracle. And then I decided to take a year off after high school because I was under so much pressure in grade 12 to choose something, that pressure, it did not allow me to like open my brain to the options. And so I remember I started my university applications like mid of grade 12, and I didn't even finish them because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I took a year off. I took a gap year, which there's this whole like mystical sense around gap years. Everyone's like, oh, you should do it, you shouldn't do it, blah blah blah. I did it, and during that gap year, I worked. I was kind of working on some projects at home. I was doing a little bit of traveling. I got so bored, in fact, that I was enrolled at the U of C, University of Calgary, just to do some courses because I was like, I need to do something with my brain. And I was also taking some high school courses online because I had started to get inklings that maybe engineering was the answer. Maybe I should do that, but I didn't do my physics. I didn't do my calculus in high school, so I had to catch up on those courses. So I did all that. I ended up applying to multiple schools in Ontario for aerospace engineering because I've always loved planes, aircrafts, that kind of stuff. And during this time, I was also kind of considering the military and going into the Air Force. I don't know. I had like everything in my brain. And I had just landed on aerospace engineering. And I said, sure, that seems great.
Mhm.
And I ended up getting accepted to Carleton University in Ottawa. I said, perfect. I'm going to pack up. I'm going to go to Ottawa. This is every 19-year-old's dream. Get the heck out of Alberta, you know. And so packed up. I went to Ontario and I did my first year of engineering there. It was good, I suppose. And then I had started my second year and like everything just came crashing down. Like I think that I had really realized internally that this is not what I was supposed to be doing. And I think all of our bodies have a way of telling ourselves if we're supposed to be in a certain program, down a certain path. And I think that this was me telling myself that I was not in the right spot. And so I ended up dropping the heck out of Carleton. I said, none of this. And I moved back to Alberta, moved back to Calgary. And when I moved back, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Oh gosh, like what have I just done? Because I did not make any plan for what was next. And I moved back into my parents' house, and my parents were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I don't know." But they were also super supportive at the same time because I remember kind of Christmas time had come around that year, and I was going crazy because I was so bored and I was so confused and I was so lost, and I was like, I thought engineering was it, but clearly engineering's not it. What the heck do I do? And I remember during that time, I had started picking up some like metalworking hobbies. I had created my own like home mini foundry that I made out of like plaster of Paris in a bucket with, and I made like a propane torch to stick into the side of the bucket with a crucible, and I was melting down old bullet shells to get the brass, and then I was casting the brass. I just picked up this hobby, and my dad was kind of watching me do this, and he was like, Mackenzie, why don't you try welding? And I was like, oh dang, I should try welding. And it was perfect timing because then that's when I had found the program at SAIT down in Calgary. And actually, the first thing I did was I took a night course in oxyacetylene, just like an intro oxyacetylene welding course. And I remember I enrolled well, my dad enrolled me, very nice of him. um, and I had gone to the first evening class. I was the only woman there, of course, and also young person there, really. And it was incredibly intimidating, but I was so excited. I was just so excited to be there that it was okay. But it's funny because I even remember that very first class that I went to, and I remember I was wearing. I don't want this to come off weird at all, but I was wearing a pair of jeans that they fit me, right?
Mhm.
And I remember my instructor, who was male, the very first class, he said, "Your pants are too tight. Your jeans are too tight." And I remember being like, I was so taken aback by that comment because I understand it on one part of it being a safety thing. Obviously, you prefer looser fitting clothing when you're welding so that there's more air between your leg and the pant, whatever, right? But he took the moment to point me out of this class of men right in front of everyone and said, "Your jeans are too tight," and that was scary. But I
Yeah,
decided to
that
just
that's a little bit douchebaggy. Yeah.
yeah, I did not like super
To say the
appreciate
least.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Mhm.
like, okay. I guess I'm gonna continue. But then I remember like holding the torch for the first time and like getting the flame going and like watching the little flame melt the little piece of steel. It's like the same moment that Jolene had with the plasma cutter, that it was like, oh my god, this is awesome. And I remember I blew away my instructor. I was making like better welds after the first couple days than any of the guys in my class. And my instructor was just like, wow, you're really taking this on. I was like, I love this. And it just went from there. It was like the same thing as Julian. I was just like, this is what I need to do. This is it. And from there, I had taken a couple other classes. I'd started my apprenticeship, but then after I had kind of finished taking the classes, I was trying to find a position in a shop somewhere, kind of, but I just noticed that every single time that I would get on the phone with someone, with usually a man, who's on the other end of the phone, and the moment that they'd hear that I was a young woman, they kind of shut down and didn't seem interested in hiring me. And that was so discouraging. And that's just one example.
Hmm.
But I was incredibly discouraged by that experience. And I remember I spent a lot of time with my dad. God bless my dad. I love him so much. And I said, like, is this for me? Like, am I really meant to be in this? If I'm getting this discouraged just from a job search, like, is this going to be my future in this industry? And I was so discouraged that I was like, I can't do welding. Like, this isn't for me. And then my dad was like, well, you had tried engineering, you had tried welding. Why don't you try putting them together in some sort of welding engineering? And I was like, Dad, you're a genius. And then I, and then that's when I enrolled at U of A in materials engineering, because it just kind of made sense, right? If I want to go into welding engineering, materials engineering was kind of the most similar. And I remember back at Carleton, I really enjoyed the materials classes I was taking. Um, and then that's what brought me almost immediately to the CCWJ. I remember I was like so desperate to start welding again that during the orientation for the materials engineering students, I went up to one of the women who was running it. And I was like, "Is there any welding, anything happening at this school?" And she was like, "Oh, you got to talk to Patricio." And I was like, "Oh, I got to talk to Patricio." And then got in contact with Patricio, and kind of the rest is history. I got started with the CCWJ. I was doing research on some hydrogen, testing hydrogen content in welds and in steel. And then that's how I met Jolene. And then I had started these intro ladies welding sessions because I noticed that there was a really decent population of women at the CCWJ, but none of them really knew how to weld. None of them really knew how to use equipment, and they were asking me to teach them. And all of them had kind of come to me separately saying, "Oh, can you teach me how to weld? Can you teach me how to do this?" And I said, "Okay, clearly there's a need. Why don't I just do it all at once in these little sessions?" And Patricio was so supportive. He said, "Absolutely, go for it. This is an awesome way to encourage like the ladies around here and also just the greater engineering faculty and beyond to get involved." And I had started these ladies intro welding sessions. Loved it. They loved it. That's where Jolene and I really got to know each other. And yeah, that's here we are now.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I got a couple questions for you that I want to ask about your story that I think are interesting, and I think one of them is maybe more of a commentary. Like you were telling me about when you hit that moment of existential dread when you're like 19, 20, and you don't know what the hell you're gonna do, and it happens to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in university and you think you're so sure or whatever. You have those moments where you're like, this is all a mess. Like I don't 100% sure know what I'm doing. But let me tell you that for a guy, and I'm just being straight up honest, the opportunities at hand during those moments are so much greater. You know what I mean? So I can go flip bricks at the construction place, go drywall, go roofing, go serving, go be a cook, be a car wash. Like the entire world is okay with a guy walking in and being like, I want to be a dishwasher, I want to be a server, I want to be a bricklayer. And all those things are entry level, no education, you don't know what the hell you're doing jobs, and some of them can pay really well and they can be your life if you really want them to be. And I'm not saying that that's bad, I'm saying that that's okay, but I'm just saying that if you're a girl and you hit that existential dread and you're like, okay, you know what, I just got to go make some money for now until I figure things out, the opportunity spectrum is way smaller.
Yes.
Hmm.
You can't just go flip bricks or just go be a roofer. Like, just think about what I just said. Like, how many girl roofers do you know?
That's exactly the thing.
Well,
Construction
yeah.
in general is just like not an option, pretty
And
much.
that is like an entry level trades gig that for men, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I can go do construction
Exactly. Or
because
go work on the rigs, right?
that's
Like,
right. I can go do
yeah,
this job because I literally have no idea what I want to do, but I can go make 25 bucks an hour in my whatever job, you know, and that is not for the same for women. Many of the students that I've had that are women, their only avenue to make good money in a I don't know what I'm doing job is serving. And that's like 12 hours a night till 4 in the morning, getting
hmm.
hit on and pinched and treated like crap to go make a couple $100. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just feel like I hate that there's not the same playing field.
Well, absolutely. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing like in high school, right? That or when you're going to school that these opportunities are being encouraged for the boys. They're like, "Oh, why don't you consider working on the rigs? Why don't you consider trades? Why don't you consider this, that?" And that is kind of part of the culture when they're young. Where for women, that's not even part of the question. And that's why like when I was in high school, I never even considered trades or anything like that because that just was never even the part of
A
the
thing.
conversation, you know? And I
Yeah.
had to come across that later on as a young adult on my own, you know?
Totally. And just to like add on to that, which it could possibly turn into a rant, but I'll try not to rant about it. But yeah, it's that thing like what Mackenzie is saying is like when you're a kid and you're a girl, you're just not given those experiences, and it just boils down to culture and society because as a boy when you're growing up and your dad's in the garage and he's fixing his car or he's trying to fix something or like whatever's going on and he's just like, oh, come over here and help me, or can you get me this tool, or can you do this, or blah blah, and you're just like somehow brought very in a very like natural way into the fold of like how to fix things, how to use tools, how to do something. You're always expected to help around the house, fixing whatever or carrying whatever. Not saying that you're going to be good at it just because your dad asks you to help, or that these are skills that you need to develop through life, but just the fact that you have a familiarity with it. And so
Mhm.
like you're saying, Max, when it comes to this moment where you're like, everything's a mess, I don't know what to do. You're if you've never had those experiences, you're never gonna think, oh well, when I was a kid, like I helped my dad in the garage, so maybe I can just like get a job at a shop
Exactly,
business,
because I have
or
experience
like
working on cars.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like doing something, or like I helped my dad like build a fence one time, so maybe I'll see if I can get a job at a fencing company, or like really like basic stuff like that. We just as girls, we just don't have those experiences, so
And
Yeah.
I'll even add something to that where in that conversation, the patriarchy is still present because listen to this. Why did nobody in this conversation say, why didn't my mom ask me to help fix the car? Why
there you
Exactly.
go, right there.
ask me to fix the plumbing? Because they're and so this is like the next level, and this is something that I'm always trying to work on in my supports of programming and development of of gender and identity equality in the world, because I get that I'm a male and I have like that that oyster in front of me that I can acknowledge. My setbacks in this country is that I'm an immigrant and I'm not English my first language and I'm a brown guy, and so I have those setbacks, which are only this much. If I was a woman and brown, oh man, forget it. That's the worst segment of society to be in terms of poverty, exclusion, job,
Yeah,
wages, everything, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I only understand this much. You guys understand this much, and I'm just trying to figure out how to fix that. And when I hear conversations like you just said, like I can't I wouldn't have had those opportunities as a girl because I never thought about helping my dad. Well, think about how deep that content is when well, your mom wasn't even in the conversation.
I know, right? She
Like
didn't think she could do it either.
that's right. So if you don't have the leadership, the mentors to lean on, then where do you go? Like how do you build on that? Which is exactly what you guys are trying to do.
Well,
Yes,
that's
and
exactly it. Yeah.
exactly. And that's such a huge part of what we want the red bench to be, is by giving women those role models, those peers who just simply look like them. That is so powerful. Just to be around someone who looks like you, that comfort that you feel knowing that they have had the same experience as you, and that with that comfort brings confidence. And
Hmm.
with that confidence, you can learn anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I can only recall countless and countless of times, and I know the same for Jolene, and I know the same for so many women, that walking into a shop full of men who, if you go to ask a question, they're going to have some sort of snide remark as to why you don't know that already, or why you're even asking, or why you can't
Why
just
are
do
you
it
there?
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, you
Like,
don't,
why are
it
you
makes you
even
not,
here?
yeah, and then you're like, okay, clearly I can't ask questions then, because I'm just going to get talked down to.
Yeah, and
And I
just
mean,
imagine flipping that patriarchy. Imagine flipping it and okay, fine, let's play the patriarchy game. Take that dude, put him in a kitchen, give him this stuff, and say, "Cook cake, like make me a cake. You got 20 minutes." And they go, "Well, where's the recipe?" And you go, "Well, what are you stupid?" Like, I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, just if you treated them the same way and be like, "Oh, you don't know how to use the three-way mixer? What are you dumb?" Like, what?
yeah,
They would be so offended, you know? So, like, and I mean, that's probably kind of a terrible example because I hate playing like, the typical role thing, but, I mean, if you were to just flip the script,
hmm,
it would not go well. You know
yeah,
what
Well,
I mean?
yeah. And just to add to that too, like I feel like a lot of men are trapped in those scenarios too. Exact scenario that Mackenzie describing. You go into a shop and you don't know something, and you get a snide remark, or you're treated like garbage. You aren't treated properly for certain reasons. I don't know. I don't understand it, and I think that's why it's really important too to have gender equality in these fields, because I don't know, there's just something about it in like all male workspaces. There's like this constant fight, like getting to the top, or like
hmm,
trying to prove that I know more than you, or this like chest beating, or things going on. And I don't know if that's because there's only men there, or like what is going on, but we need to have people with different life experiences, with different
yes,
perspectives, that have been in different situations, that have a different way of looking at things. And the very one of the most basic ways you can do that is have people of different genders, people of different colors, people of different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so yeah, just trying to mix it up a little bit.
All right. Well,
I
this is
I
a great
agree.
time to take a break for our commercials. We got to get a sponsor
Okay.
break here, and we're having an awesome conversation. So we'll thanks everyone for tuning in and listening to Mac and Joe here telling us about the Red Bench and our life experiences, which I'm loving this conversation. So we'll be right back after the sponsor break. Don't go anywhere. And we're back here on the CWB Association podcast. I got two fantastic guests here. I got Mackenzie and Jolene, who are the co-creators, owners, developers
Founders.
of
Mm-hmm.
founders of the Red Bench, and we're talking about some of the, I guess, narratives that exist in the world for women or any other gender identity because it's not just men and women. We got a
Yeah.
whole spectrum of
Yes.
LGBTQ plus community that I love dearly and have are many of my friends and let me tell you, I was raised in such a crazy family where we were so poor and so like out of place coming to this country we were refugees from a war. We had nothing. We came here. We My family is so open to everything. I never once in my life grew up and heard anything negative about blacks or women's or gays or like, I mean, that stuff didn't even happen in my house. It was like whatever. My sister was around tools just as much as me. I'm the better cook of the two of us. Like, I mean, it
Sweet.
was not like this is your role, this is your role. It was all hands in. If you like to do something, you do it. And I love cooking, so I was always in the kitchen with my mom. My
Awesome.
sister was like rough and tumble, and she was always with my dad out in the shop. And it wasn't until I grew up that I didn't want to become a welder, but my dad was a welder, so I was like, I guess I'll do that because 19 years old, what am I gonna do? Like, and so I had that familiarity in my family, just in terms of what I was around. But there was never any push one way or another. I realize that that's super rare. Even just in the context of my own friends, you hear the comments, you hear the racism, the sexism, the blah blah blah, and it's just I think that with millennials and God, lightning strike me down from I'm a Gen Xer, and all my Gen X compatriots are going to be like you're crazy, but I have faith in the millennials. I have my daughter was born in '98. My son was born in 2002. They're the next gen coming up. And you know what? They don't got time for this crap. They just don't got time for it. And if you say something stupid like that around them, they will call you out. And
Right.
that's the good thing. That's what we need because you know what? Too many years of like the oh ha 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 this joke behind doors. You know what? We're it's 2021. Let's get past that, right?
Well,
Yeah.
and to kind of add on to that, right? Like in terms of the jokes behind closed doors, like I really believe that there has to be, I don't think it's going to be like a aggressive overthrow, but I think that a huge part of creating a much more like equitable community and culture in trades and technology is that there's a huge culture right now of, people always talk about like the nasty jokes and nasty things that these dudes will say on the work site that are so bad and so insulting and so terrible, but it's like you have to believe, and you have to not necessarily believe, but you have to say these things in order to like be part of the culture, be part of the group, be taken seriously. And I notice that so many times on work sites. And I have a really good friend, she's in second year electrician, and she's like, the amount of just nasty shit that I hear on a daily basis because these guys think it's funny or they think it's okay that make me feel so uncomfortable in the workplace. And it's still a huge part of that culture, and like I don't even know where to start with addressing that, because it's not only nasty jokes about women, it's nasty jokes about LGBTQ plus community, it's nasty jokes about people who aren't white. Like it's a really terrible, gross community in that regard. Mm-hmm. And
And
it's
you
something
know,
that I hope, sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
And this is this is my plan. This is what I'm trying to do. And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong or stupid, okay? Um one of the things that I feel is really missing in the world that I think will help all these situations is the elevating of women's status in the workplace. Okay? And what I mean by this is that there's always like these defined hierarchies that exist. So let's say, oh, we're going to be an inclusive company. Let's hire 50% women tomorrow. Okay, great. Sure, let's do it. So you hire 50 men and 50 women. But I would want to see a guarantee somewhere down the line that 50% of the supervisors are each, 50% of the foremen, of the managers, directors, like it needs to climb up because you know what? If your boss in a welding shop is a woman, I bet you watch what you say as a guy,
Oh yeah.
right? I
I
bet you
bet
watch it
ya.
when they sign off on your paycheck. I bet you watch what they say. But what happens is that there's a top-down protection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that and I'm not slagging engineers because you guys are both engineers, and I get that. But there's a lot of women engineers. Women actually represent the engineering community very strongly, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of women in the engineering programs, but there's not a lot of women in the trades programs at a high level.
No.
So how do we correct that gap? Because what happens, I've worked for companies where there's a lot of female engineers, and I feel like there's more respect amongst engineers, men, women. I'm sure there's still a lot of crap, but it seems to be better, you know, than say the welding shop floor. So the gap exists at the top of the shop, not the bottom of the management.
Absolutely.
Management seems to
Mhm.
filter out okay or better, but the shop is I think where the big gap is. So whenever I'm talking like I'm in a women in trade conference on Friday, this Friday coming up, and I'm on the panel, and that's one of the things I'm going to bring up is like it's great to get women in the front door. Sure, of course it is. But what are the supports to get them to the next level? We need women to be the bosses. We need women to be managers. We need women to open shops, run rigs, run companies. And
Hell yes. Hell
that's
yes.
right, because
Mm-hmm.
this is how you change the system. Stupid
Yes.
quote, Marilyn Manson, heavy metal weirdo from way back, right? You guys ever heard of
Ceron.
him?
Yes.
Of
Ceron.
Oh
course.
yeah.
Yes.
One time they asked him, like, what do you think about the music industry, because you're so weird. And he said, I don't care, because the only way to change industry is to own industry. And I've always thought about that. It's really hard to change it from the bottom when you're the little guy. But if you can get yourself into a position of power, once you're in
Yes.
that position of power, now sling the arrows, right? And
Oh
that's
yes.
what I'd love to see women do. And I think that your makerspace is kind of like one of these things, because as a dude I can walk into a million shops and just say, hey, teach me how to weld, and they'll be like, yeah, right on. It's not easy for women to do that, and so you guys giving them a space is perfect, right?
Right, and I
Absolutely.
hope that, in terms of having a space like this and encouraging women to come practice their skills, work on their skills, learn new skills, that when they exit and they go back into the workforce, like let's say we have a woman, she had just gotten her ticket, she just finished her welding program, and she has certain skills that she wants to learn so that she can get certified in certain things, but she has nowhere to go for that, and obviously that's so discouraging and that's so disempowering, and you're not going to want to move up in the ranks. You're not going to want to have that voice for yourself to move up if like you don't even feel like you're enough. And that's why I hope, and what Joe and I want so badly for the red bench is for these women to exit with that newfound or elevated confidence to be able to go back to work or enter a work place on the floor and say, okay, enough's enough. I feel like I can move up now. I can move up through the ranks and one day find themselves up in those positions where they can make like real change, real applicable change. Like how Jolene said when she was talking about her story that becoming an engineer was a way for her and for myself as well to enact that change.
Yeah,
What do
to
you think,
affect
Joe?
yeah, to affect high level change. And just to be clear, like our shop is not a training space. Like we're not there
Yeah.
to train anybody or to we don't have won't have like programs at least in the beginning where you learn a certain skill or you can like get a ticket or something. We're just there to be a place that you can come if you have skills or if you have absolutely no skills
Hmm.
whatsoever, just show up and be like, "Hey, how does this work?" Like maybe you're new, you don't have any skills whatsoever and you have like something broken at your house and like I really want this to be fixed, but I don't want to have to call somebody and I want to learn I want to be able to do it myself. And then have other women there who, can act as mentors and like, okay, I'll show you how to do that. Or maybe you just bring your computer and watch a YouTube tutorial, but you have all the tools there so you don't have to go out and buy them. Maybe you live in an apartment, you don't have a garage or a shop space. You have a place to go and do that. And so there's a one aspect of it if we want women to get practical skills. Like I know for myself, I did a welding continuing education program at NATE, and I went through the whole thing, and I came out at the end like I don't have a welder at home or a garage or anything, so I guess that's just the end of that. Where I want to be at the red bench for women like me, be like, you got your ticket, you did a continuing education course, and then you go there, and then suddenly you have this shop, so you can do those skills. You can build stuff on the weekend. So if you have to go and work on Monday and go into this like really challenging work environment, like I built something on the weekend, I fixed something, I helped someone build another project. Like I am more than my job even. Like I do this. This is my life. Like I enjoy
Hmm.
doing this and I enjoy fixing stuff. And the other element of that is the community aspect where you can go into a place where it's women or like people like you who you can tell stories to and be like, oh, I went into the work the other day and this happened, and they're like, oh, this happened to me too. So we can share our experiences and build on that, so you're not isolated. Like being a woman going into a workplace where you're one of like 10 or 20 or 50 people, and there's no one else there like you. That's incredibly isolating, not being able to relate your experiences or know, is this normal or is this not normal? Like, am I crazy if I'm thinking this, or is that really how it is? And so with the red bench, you can have that too, this community that you can go to and connect to and basically, yeah, build yourself up and know that you're in the right place and you're doing the right thing.
So now with your red bench, explain to me, I guess, how you guys get the space. Where'd you get equipment from? How do you guys get funded? Do you just fund internally through memberships? Like, explain that. And like, I mean, do you guys, are you seeking funding? Like, how does this work?
Yeah, so what we've done so far is we have defined our vision, we've defined our community, we've created a 35-page business plan. We've laid all the groundwork to getting a shop and getting everything set up, like training protocol, or like training in the sense of like how to use the shop, be safe in the shop, safety protocol, these different things. So we've laid all the groundwork for having a shop that is fully equipped with tools and consumables and equipment. So the next step is applying for funding. So we are looking for funding from anybody, private organizations, public or institutions, even individuals, who can basically, our biggest expense that we discovered in our cost estimations and our business plan is rent and utilities. So that's the biggest kind of like chess piece for us right now, and that's kind of going to make everything move. We're in talks with a local organization right now in Edmonton to get a temporary workspace. So we don't know how it's going to evolve over time, but basically it could be like a place where we could start right, within the next couple months and just get established so we have that physical presence. So now we're on the map. But eventually we want to move into having our own shop space, nothing crazy or nothing fancy home that our members can go to whenever they want. The doors will always be open. And then with that, as far as equipment and consumables go, would be accepting those as donations once we have a physical shop space. And one of our main sources of equipment we predict will be through secondhand equipment. So people are like individuals or shops or businesses that have tools that they're not using anymore, because it often is that people upgrade their equipment and upgrade their tools and they want to pass it on to a good cause, they can give it to us. And of course, we would be open to donations from manufacturers if they want to donate a welding machine to us. Wouldn't mind once
a brand new one.
Yeah, would be kind of cool. But totally, definitely secondhand equipment will be our main source of
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like Joe said, we were aiming on starting small. Like this is one or two welders, one or two power sources. This is a real nice workbench that we can make ourselves, and some really basic hand tools and power tools just to get us going. And I know for a fact that there's tons of shops out there that have tons of equipment that is old and they don't use because they've been able to update their own equipment that they will probably throw away. And if we can capitalize on that and take that shit that would otherwise get thrown away and say, hey, give it to us. We don't care what condition it is in. Even if it kind of doesn't work, Joe and I can try our hand at fixing it. And or even ask our members if they want to fix it, and start really small and get the momentum going from there, and then continue growing our relationships. Like we've been talking lots with you folks at CWB. It's been so awesome. We've been talking to folks with AWS, University of Alberta, Nate. We're gonna start getting in cahoots with some of the local companies around here, and like Alta Steel's a really good one, for example. And just starting the conversation, starting the relationships. And so that when they see we have some momentum going and we say, hey, this is our home, this is our address. Do you have anything? Come and drop it off at our door. That's all we want. And I know for a fact too, in terms of consumables, electrodes expire all the time. And like, give us that expired, give us all of it, and we will use it and we will have a place for it. And like Jolene said as well, this can also come down to individual donations. It doesn't necessarily have to come from a big company. It doesn't have to come from something established like an institution. I have a really good friend of mine who her dad's a retired electrical engineer. He gave us 4 boxes of just like electrical stuff, to just have. So like,
And that's the
it's
stuff you
just
need to practice with, just play around with, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So then,
That's just,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was gonna say a lot of our first projects are gonna be just that. Like, I know me and Mac, one of our first ideas is build a welding table, build shelves to put all our consumables and tools on. Like, these are going to be the first projects that we do to kind of, we're not just going to open a shop with tools and be like, hey, everybody have that, or like, we're going to do that too, but also that we're going to have projects on the go already so that people can be brought into the fold and be active immediately. Be like, okay, we got a shop space, we got tools. On Saturday, we're going to start building a welding table. Anybody can come, or we're going to start building shelves, or we're going to start doing this or doing that. So it's going to be really, we're going to be feet to the ground. As soon as we get that shop space, as soon as we get tools, we're going to be on it immediately.
Yes. And speaking to kind of a very practical money side of it, right? Because everyone wants to know about how the heck we're going to afford this. If we're able to get like most of what we need donated, Joe and I calculated that, if we can even just get our workshop donated to us, our monthly cost of operation gets into the three digits, like less than $1,000 a month. And if we're able to use grant money, scholarship money, and pay for those expenses, then we can operate with longevity, like with a lifetime. And that's why it's so key that we're able to create these relationships to get these things in this space donated to us. Because our like you had mentioned, I think, Max, our membership fee is not a source of funding. The membership fee is just to cover our members by the group insurance and ensure their safety and ensure the liability of the whole place. But it's not a
Source of income.
funding
Yeah.
source. Yeah.
So then, big picture. Let's go big picture. Let's say, with the people that you're meeting and the connections you're doing and all this work you guys are putting in, you got a company X shows up and says, you know what? I love what you guys are doing. This is a part of our mandate as well. Here's $1 million. Okay. And so now what do you guys see your business plan as being like a red bench in every major center in Canada? Is this something that, let's say there's a group of women here in Regina, Saskatchewan, where I am supporting all my local women's and LGBT groups, and they're listening to this podcast and they go, we could do this. I know 3 or 4 women that are tradespersons, a couple red seals, maybe a couple engineers. Maybe we can get together, and we've been talking about this. And instead of us having to come up with a whole new plan, let's just reach out to Joe and Mac and talk to them. And maybe we just, copy and paste this into another city. Is this something you guys would be down with? Is this something you guys are willing? Because that's like, I'm just asking, like, how committed are you this to like the end game? Because what if this gets big? You guys gonna follow this through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the only
Yeah.
way that we're going to be able to truly like make a difference in trades technology community is expanding and by establishing everywhere. Because this issue is not only in Edmonton, where women need a space and women need support. This is a worldwide, as far as I know, especially in Canada. This is something that needs to be addressed everywhere. And how cool would it be to see other like red benches around Canada? That would be amazing.
That would be so cool. Like, and that's the thing too. Like, me and Mac, this is our project, and I don't think we have any problem whatsoever. If there before we were donated $1 million, let's say in the dream scenario, even if it was tomorrow and there was women in another city that were like, hey, we just saw your website, we love what you're doing, can you give us some advice? Like, it's like, yeah, obviously, absolutely, anything that you need. It would be really amazing to see more red benches. I think we would like to get a shop space first before any of that. That would be the first step. But yeah, once that happens and it really takes off, that'd be really amazing.
Well,
Yeah,
for all
and
the people in the Edmonton area that are listening, the call's out, the gauntlet has been thrown,
Yes.
and you're right. The people got geared. They got all over the place. I have an extra welder in my garage right now that I don't use, but you're too far away. So I'll save it for my local red bench group. So
Yeah, sounds great.
absolutely. But that's exactly it, right? Like, this does not have to be up on this high level. Like, this can just be folks from the community that just want to help out and give back. People love doing that. So, and what a way to give back by helping out a couple ladies establish a shop for other ladies around here.
That's right. Yeah, and if you don't have a shelf space, but maybe you just have like a couple extra like power tools, like a power like a drill or whatever it may be. Like that's all we need.
Exactly.
So are you guys now both done your career or your education? Are you guys out there working on getting your towards your PN just now, or what are you guys working on right now?
Nope, we're both still undergrads. I'm in my 4th year. Max, and you're going into
I'm
your
in
3rd year now.
I'm in like the vortex. I'm in the void.
Yeah.
I don't know where I am because since I transferred, it's a mess. But I'm kind of in like my 3rd year, but 3rd year out of like 6, probably.
Yeah.
So I have a ways to go.
Mhm.
In my undergrad, I'm in
Yeah.
both Jolene and I are in the co-op program, so we work between our semesters. And Joe, you're going to be graduating though next year.
Next year, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say graduating, I know that if you spend too much time around CCWJ and Patricio, you're going to end up in some type of master's doctorate format. Then you'll probably just end up getting sucked into another 4 years. Trust me, I know how those guys work up there.
Yeah,
They're
no,
smooth operators, yes.
yes, definitely.
Mhm.
I'm graduating next year, and my plan is to not go back to school immediately. But yeah, I've already had a few professors be like, "Yeah, so what are you doing after you graduate?" And I'm like, oh, geez.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I'm not graduating for quite a lot of time, and even then now, and I think that's something that's so cool that about Joe and I working together on this is that her and I we're just in our undergrad, and I think a lot of people forget that her and I we're still just working through our undergrad. I think I know I've had some conversations where people assume that we're already PNs or we're already EITs or we're already master students. Like whoa, no, we got lots to go. Still, we're still full time students, and we're doing this as our passion project. And I know at least for me, and I can imagine for Joe too, that if the red bench, if it takes off, this will be such an awesome thing to keep going through the years. And another thing too that kind of goes along with the lifetime and the longevity, like this is not Jolene and I's, this is our baby right now, but we see a development with the red bench where the women who come in and they show a really great interest for the red bench and they show a lot of leadership and a lot of initiative, that we want to start welcoming women into more of a management, more of a executive sort of
Yeah.
positions, leadership positions with the red bench. Like Jolene and I don't plan on having an iron grip on
Yeah.
this company, on this organization. We want to be able to pass off the torch to women who are interested in doing this, and that includes women from around Canada or even beyond.
So let me
Absolutely.
get this straight. It'll be like the Red Bench Makerspace Consulting and Engineering Materials Designation Research and Facilities Laboratory.
That's the longest acronym ever.
No, but we're absolutely committed to the idea of community. The red bench is designed to serve the community, and it's also designed to be in the long term to be upheld by the community and not even run by the community. So just to reiterate what Mac was saying, we want women, like, this is more than just bringing women into trades and skills and peer mentoring and stuff, but as an organization we want to bring women into the organizational structure of it, like members like Mackenzie is saying that we're interested. I want to be like, this is freaking awesome, like how can I contribute more, like we're right now a private corporation and we're doing everything. We're the CEO, we're the president, we're the board of directors, the officers, the everything, but we want other people in those roles too, because we got lots of good ideas and we're doing good and stuff, but the more heads, the more hands and hearts, the more people that care and want to contribute, the better.
Absolutely. And to kind of add on to that too, that Joe and I really, really hope that her and I, through time, because we don't want this to be a forced process, but that we can create a really, really diverse community of women. And,
Yeah.
you can obviously see Jolene and I are both white women. And we are working so hard on just setting a focus on creating a diverse community, and that's people
Mhm.
of all different colors, all different backgrounds, LGBTQ plus community. That is so important to us because that's what builds strength through that diversity. And it's something that I know I don't see a lot of around here. And I think it's something that Jolene and I, with a lot of hard work and dedication, that we can get there by to build a diverse community that we so badly want.
Well,
Definitely.
that's exactly what we need to do, and I mean, that's why we people volunteer and people work, and I mean, people should not be discouraged that it's not a path to success because it is. It's still a path. People think like, oh, if I volunteer or if I work for these good causes, I'm limiting my career, and that is 100% not true. You know, you can absolutely have a very great successful life, whatever your definition of success is, because they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both, you can be it all, you know. And that's the thing, is like the old boys club wants to make you believe that if the only way to get to the top is down this road, and that is just not true. There's a zillion ways
Absolutely.
to get there, you know.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I hope that this can have some sort of like what's that thing they call trickle down effect, that not only
Like the
will
butterfly effect.
companies, I don't know, like not only will like companies see, hopefully, the really, really good like advantages, that's the word, see the advantages of what the red bench can do for women, but that it can trickle down to like the high school level and even before that, to give, like how Jolene and I really wanted as girls, just the option of that being something that we could do with our time and with our lives. Because I know, as we were talking about before, that was not even part of the conversation.
Yeah, mentors are key. Mentors are everything. I've
Hmm.
worked, it was funny actually, when I was working as a programmer, there was one of my supervisors, super well meaning dude, like really wanted to help, really wanted to contribute. And he wanted to have like women's programming sessions going on and stuff and all this other stuff. He's like, I just don't understand like why it's like this. Like, why aren't there more women in computer programming? And I was like, it's just mentors. Like, we need mentors. We need, like, it's, you need to see people who look like you. And then once you're
Hmm.
like, oh, if they can do it, well, obviously I can do it. And I think that's kind of the motto of the red bench. Like, if she can do it, then I can do it too.
Yeah.
So we want to create that, you know, we want to create the society that we want. We want to put women in these situations where other women see and they're like, hey, she's doing it. Why can't I do it? Of course I can do it. I'm going to give it a try. And then not only can you give it a try, but you have a place to give it a try too.
Yes, exactly. And that is not just like only exclusive to just women. It's like I remember Max, you were saying earlier,
Mm-hmm.
how disempowered or how hard it can be for a woman who is a woman, who is maybe from brown or something like that, right? And maybe she's also gay. And how do you even navigate that? and
Yeah.
and being able to have somewhere where, like, let's say that woman joins the red bench, and then other women who see that, they're like, oh, I'm gay, or oh, I'm also whatever, and I see this type of woman doing this, that means I can do it too. And
Mhm.
that's so key, so key to the red bench.
Awesome. Well, you know, our hour is up. That was fast, and that was a super fun podcast, guys. I really appreciate the both of you being on here. Um, you know, I hope you guys had fun.
Oh my goodness, I had such a good
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. Joe and I can like talk forever.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and it's so much fun to have such a good conversation with you,
Well, I'm out in
Max.
the prairies, so someday I'm sure I'll be up in Edmonton, and you know, you guys can hopefully have a spot by then, and take give me a tour of the hopefully the Red Bench place. And you know, I always ask all my guests this, so I'm going to ask you guys, and I'll go alphabetically. So first, Joe, if you were a young girl coming up now, say you're in grade 5 to 8, you're not even in high school yet, but you're that girl, like you said, likes to play with her hands, likes to do stuff, likes the sciences. What would be a piece of advice you give that young girl going forward?
My advice to her would be that don't let anyone probably give you no for an answer. If you want something, you follow it, you keep doing it. And oh my God, this is such a loaded question. That's so hard. It's a hard thing to say because there's a lot of things that come along with it. But all you can really say is don't give up on your dreams. It sounds cheesy, but don't give up on your dreams. And you can do more than one thing. You don't have to be one thing. You can have all sorts of skills. You can try all different things. If you fail, it's not a, reflection of your self-worth or your self-being. You try something, you fall down, you get back up again and try something else.
Yeah, and I love that analogy because I always think of tools like wrenches. Like if I have a half-inch nut and I grab a three-quarter-inch wrench and it's too big and it doesn't fit, I don't look at that wrench and go, "You failed," and you throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm not
Right.
like, "You're done with me," and it's you know and it's gone. It's just
Yeah.
not the right tool at the time. So
Yeah.
anything you learn or anything you pick up will have a time and place in your life somewhere,
Yeah.
right?
And you
So.
can be more than one thing. You don't have to be just an engineer or just a welder. You can be a welder and then maybe do that for a while and you're like, oh, I want to be a whatever, a cook. You do that for a while and then try something else. It's just follow your dreams, try a bunch of different things, see what you like, and don't be too hard on yourself. Like if you fail, get up again, try something else.
All right. And Mac, I'm going to take you to the next age group then. So you're now in high school. You're a young girl in high school and you're starting to figure out the that crappy feeling of being discriminated, which is I think when women really start to feel that is in high school is like, the football team and the hockey team is for boys
Hmm.
and the girls have to go to art and drama and you start getting that segregation that society's built. What would you give that young woman coming out of high school that's thinking, I am interested in the trades, but I don't even know how to approach that?
I I feel like I really identify with that for sure. And what I would say is take that feeling and don't ever forget about that feeling. Don't ever lose that feeling. Just like Jolene said, so many people will have so many things to say about what you should do, what you should be doing with your life, what you should be doing with yourself. And that can very easily stray you away from what you really want to do. And I think holding on to that want, just that, even if it's just that little noise, that little voice in the back of your head that says, "Oh, I really think that I would be good for this. I really, really like this." And it's okay if it takes years to get to that
Oh yeah.
spot. It's okay if it takes time to get to really fulfill that feeling of what you want to do, because it's probably going to take time. And I would say the best thing that you can do for yourself is just try new things. If you have the means, or try and find the support just to be able to try night classes, go out and try that 6-week program that's offered at your trades college. Go out and if you have any relatives that do any sort of handy work, just try and say, "Oh, hey, uncle whatever, or auntie whatever, can you show me how to like fix your motorcycle or whatever," right? And it's going to probably be a really slow process, because that's kind of how the world is set up right now for women trying to do things that are not women things. But just don't ever lose that feeling of wanting, if that's what you want to do, and just by trying and dabbling and dipping your little toes into all these little things, eventually something will open and you'll get there.
Awesome. Well, I have loved having you guys on the show. And FYI, I'm not sure when this is being released because I'm I think about 4 weeks in. But if this gets released prior to the educators conference, the Red Bench, both Mac and Joe, are going to be presenting at the educators conference June 1st and 2nd. I believe you guys are on the second day at the end. I think you guys are part of the wrap up team.
Yeah.
So that's
Yes.
going to be tons of fun. If this airs after June 1st and 2nd, you will be able to download their event session off our association website because all our sessions are recorded and put up on the website. So, thank you guys. I hope you guys get all the success in the world. I hope you get new connections through this podcast, and I'm helping you connect with hopefully the industry, and you guys can find some of the sponsorships that you guys need.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much,
Max. It was
Max.
awesome.
Yeah, and it's incredibly important to have individuals like you who are allies for women and other diverse people. It's incredibly important. So thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, you guys take care and enjoy your weekend. Sun finally came out here, and I'll probably have you guys. I'll probably circle back and see how you guys are doing in a few months and get
Cool.
a progress report.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, you
Mhm.
guys take care, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. And for all the listeners to the podcast, again, thank you very much for following. You can always download us on Google, iTunes. We're all over the place. Stitcher, Buzzsprout. We're on every platform imaginable. We're still holding in third place for podcasts in North America right now. We gotta beat the Arc Junkies. Jason Becker, I know you're listening. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna take second place. But it's we're all doing it for the same things. Me, Jason, all the people out there that are doing these podcasts. It's about the community, right? And communities, we create strength through our stories, right? And that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
also, the Red Bench is on all social media platforms as well. We're really easy to find. Just the Red Bench YEG on everything. Please check us out. We try to be
Yeah.
as active as possible on social media, and I know that social media is a huge part of networking and getting anywhere. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks everyone, and stay tuned for the next episode.
We hope you enjoy the show.
You've been listening to the CWB Association Welding Podcast with Max Ceron. If you enjoyed what you heard today, rate our podcast and visit us at cwbassociation.org to learn more. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions or suggestions on what you'd like to learn about in the future. Produced by the CWB Group and presented by Max Ceron. This podcast serves to educate and connect the welding community. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.